For now, it's a steady, light, sort of annoying rain across Lee County, Charlotte County, DeSoto County. There's some heavier rain sitting just offshore, though. That's beginning to move onshore, especially true in Lee County. Along the Lee County Islands, you've probably noticed the pace of that rain picking up on your roof. That includes Cape Coral, Estero, the South Fort Myers area, Boca Grande, Captiva. But in particular, you know, I'm watching the cell that's producing all of that lightning as it moves toward the coast. Just in the last couple minutes, about 65 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes with this. And note I've drawn some arrows on here. You see this little appendage coming down off the western side of that. There's definitely some signs that this storm is spinning. There's some rotation within it. Now, it's a long ways from Tampa's radar, but it is also picking up on that spin on that cell, and also some very strong winds within it, about 74 miles per hour. Again, the storm's far away from Tampa, so it's sampling way up in the atmosphere. But as this moves onshore, I'll be watching very closely over the next hour if it's able to maintain that rotation and just how strong those winds will continue to be. I do think we'll likely see it weaken a little bit as it moves close to the coast. But again, definitely one I'm watching closely. Times for you here. Barefoot Beach by about 6:11. Bonita Shores by about 6:13. This is going to move onshore, North Collier County, South Lee County, as we work into the 6 o'clock hour. Just in the last couple of minutes, sort of breaking news from the Weather Department, we are now under a tornado watch. It goes until 10 o'clock this morning, includes all of Southwest Florida. You have to remember what a watch means. It means the conditions are in place for storms to potentially produce tornadoes, basically for storms to take on some rotation. And when you look at the wind profiles in the atmosphere as you go up in height, yeah, as these storms build, there's the chance some will start to spin and have the potential to produce tornadoes. If and when there's a storm that actually is producing a tornado, looks like it could, that's when a tornado warning would come out, and we'd, of course, bring that to you as soon as we would get it. There's one storm in particular I'm watching closely here right now, as I have been for the last hour and a half. It was really spinning out there over the Gulf of Mexico. The good news is, as sort of expected, it is looking much weaker as it begins to approach the coast. It's this cell right here. Of note, too, there's a whole lot of rainfall stretching across Lee County, Charlotte County, DeSoto County right now. Getting absolutely soaked with widespread light to moderate, even some pockets of heavy rain out there. But I do want to focus in on this storm. This part of the storm in particular is where there still is some rotation going. See a little bit of curvature here, so there's some winds flowing in to sort of meet that, some winds going out. And the radar continues to pick up on some of that spin. Still watching this area right here. There's still some weak rotation that I'm detecting on the radar at this point in time. Now, as you look at what the radar is seeing, and again, that's why we use Doppler radar. We can see if raindrops are moving toward or away from the radar. We can see if there's some spin in the storm. You know, I was showing you that little cylinder about 20, 30 minutes ago as the radars were picking up on that spin. That has since collapsed. But I'm still seeing winds about 40 to 50 miles per hour aloft in that storm. We could get some of those wind gusts to mix down as that moves its way onshore in northern Collier County and southern Lee County as we work through the next 30 to 40 minutes. Still tracking this cell here, too. There's definitely going to be some gustier winds with this as it moves onshore. I think we could see wind gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour. Parts of Fort Myers Beach, southward through Barefoot Beach and Bonita Beach. Sometimes for you here, Bonita Bay by 6:20, Coconut Point area by about 6:25 as well, and then Estero 6:25, San Carlos Park 6:30. This holds together the Gulf Coast Town Center and FGCU by about 6:30. You'll see that heavier rain and those stronger winds. And I'm still watching this cell here in Lee County. You see how it has progressed, moving in off the Gulf of Mexico and tracking off to the north and east. But this is the type of storm we'll be watching closely here at times this morning. So this was really spinning. There was some very strong rotation with it out over the Gulf, which collapsed as it moved onshore. But you can see some interesting structure here in this cell. Heavy rain stretching across 41 and 75 south of the Gateway area all the way back towards Iona-McGregor. But note this little appendage here. It's a sign of, again, some weak rotation, perhaps, still being held in that storm. The velocity, the wind, that is, when you look at this on radar, doesn't look too impressive. I want to sort of take you through the last 10 minutes or so with this cell. And as we go back to when this was moving just south of Ben C. Pratt, 6 Mile Cypress, moving its way over the Twin Eagle Lane area and tracking to the north and east. That's a pretty strong radar indication of some rotation within that cell. Now, as I put this forward, you can see that sort of collapses a little bit. It's not looking quite as impressive on our radar here as it moves closer to 75. But still, even at this point in time, you can clearly make out what's called a little bit of a hook echo. You look for a little bit of that sort of appendage coming off of the cell. It's a radar indication of some spin in the storm. You see the winds going that way where you see the rain still, and then a little bit of inflow there. In that area where those winds are sort of shearing, you can get a spin-up weak little tornado, and that's, again, something we're watching for with this cell. I want to put a track on this for you. It's moving at about 30 miles per hour off to the east and the northeast. As we zoom out here and try to get that speed right for you, this is going to move towards the Gateway area, towards Lehigh Acres, and further inland from there. And it's been sort of cycling with the rotation sort of coming up, dying down. So the Gateway area, in just about 5 to 10 minutes, this cell moves towards you here. Lehigh Acres, as we go into the 7 o'clock hour, LaBelle, by 7:35, this will be near your location. So what can you do with this cell approaching your area? And as we're under tornado watch, it's good to talk about anyway what you do in the event of a tornado. You want to stay away from any windows, from any doors. You want to get to an interior room if you can and sort of hunker down. Be sure you do stay in that sturdy structure until this storm passes. Now, again, no warning on this right now. I have no confirmation anything is on the ground, has touched down, anything like that. But it's a cell I'm still watching very, very closely right now. We're actually getting some reports of some pretty serious wind damage in parts of the South Fort Myers area. This is a photo that just came into our newsroom from the Cross Creek neighborhood, right off of Daniels Parkway. This is a pool cage completely mangled by some strong winds that came through. And it's that same storm I've been tracking all morning long for you. This was as it was moving through that area. Note that very pronounced hook look to that cell. It's a strong indication of rotation by our radar, and it's very possible, I think, that there was a weak tornado that moved through the area, something we'll be talking about the National Weather Service with. Now, where is that storm now? It continues to track to the north and east. That area of rotation moved across 75. Clearly, now that this is moving into the Lehigh Acres area, I'm no longer seeing that same sort of hook appendage on this, but this is moving into Lehigh Acres towards the Buckingham area. Let me draw a fresh track on this for you. It's moving quickly at about 30 miles per hour off to the east and northeast. So some times for you here. The Alva area by 7:21, LaBelle by 7:43. And again, Buckingham in around Buckingham Park, right when you turn onto Buckingham Road. That's just after 7 o'clock. We'll see the worst of the storm move in for you. Again, tornado safety, under tornado watch until 10 a.m. this morning. Things you have to remember: if you're under a tornado warning, you want to stay indoors. Of course, try to get to an interior room and stay away from doors and windows until that storm does pass by your location.
The ABC 7 forecast, your most accurate forecast.
10:43. I want to go back to earlier on this morning. So the good news is the threat for severe weather, the threat for tornadoes has really fallen off. But this was back at 6:34 a.m. I was tracking a thunderstorm that moved in off the Gulf of Mexico. When it was over the Gulf, it was really spinning. There was some strong rotation being indicated by various radars across South and Southwest Florida. As it moved onshore, it weakened. But our radar was still able to see a pretty clear indicator that there was some spin, potentially a tornado in that storm. So this is, again, 6:34 to get your bearings here. There's the 6 Mile Cypress area. There's Hammond Stadium. And you see that little bullseye right there. That's something we call a debris ball. Actually seeing some debris, some of the damage that we've been showing you throughout the morning, kicked up by that storm, being lofted by it, and our radar is actually able to pick up on that. We call this a hook echo. Not tough to see why. You can see that clear hook. Winds sweeping in to sort of meet the center there. Winds coming out of the west there in that rotation. Yeah, the potential for a tornado, which, again, just by the debris alone, by the damage we've seen alone, looks very likely that that's exactly what occurred. Now, the National Weather Service has not given the for sure that this was a tornado, but they're going to sift through the damage photos and give us the indication later on. Now, why wasn't there a warning? Well, take a look at this. You know, we go back. This was what our radar looked like at 6:34 a.m. Our radar here in Fort Myers. The National Weather Service uses the radar from Tampa, and that's what that same storm looked like. Clearly, you can't see any of those indicators for a tornado. This was a very small-scale event. So again, no warning put out, but this really highlights just how important it is that we have our live radar here in Southwest Florida to track storms like this as they move their way into and through our area, as we're so far away from Tampa's and Miami's radar. But here now, as we look live, the good news is, like I said, that threat for severe weather has really died down. We're not even seeing any significant rainfall any longer across the area. Let's put this lapse into motion. You can see the rain continues to depart out to the east. There's some additional rain to the south of Collier County, and I do think we'll see some at least light to moderate rain at times from Naples on southward moving in as we work towards lunchtime. Otherwise, rain chances are falling going forward from here. But even as those winds subside, we're not done with impacts from this storm system just yet. So the reason we had those strong storms this morning was thanks to this low pressure area that continues to strengthen as it moves across northern Florida. This is not a tropical low pressure area like when we talk about tropical storms and hurricanes. It's a non-tropical low, something closer to, say, a nor'easter. That brings wind and snow, blizzards sometimes, to parts of the northeast. It's a rare occurrence to get a low to strengthen like this in this part of the United States, but that's what we're seeing. It continues to gain strength as it moves across central Florida, and with that, it's producing some very strong winds right now. Remember, air wants to get from high to low pressure. When you have a deepening low pressure area, the winds are really going to crank up, as we're seeing right now. You look, this is across the Peace River in the Punta Gorda area. You can see how the winds are whipping the mangroves there, just how the water is moving upstream. Earlier on, the bridge is closed, the 41 bridge. We'll get an update on whether or not those bridges are open, but not tough to see why. Look at the gusts we recorded at Punta Gorda Airport earlier on. 77 miles per hour. Remember, hurricane force winds, of course, that would be sustained winds at 74 miles per hour. So we've had gusts in that range at times this morning. 71 miles per hour at Southwest Florida International, Fort Myers, and then Campo Felice on top of the building, a 60 mile per hour gust. Calais Bay gusting to 58 miles per hour. Note, all of those before the 10 o'clock hour. So the good news is we're starting to see the winds come down a little bit, but they are still strong and they will stay strong throughout the day. As we go through our future cast, the winds staying in the 30 to 40, 50 mile per hour range as we head through 2 and 3 o'clock, and then really starting to fall off. There's a 20 to 30 mile per hour winds by 5 and 6. Still breezy for our typical standards, of course. And then we're going to watch the winds die down even further into the evening. And note, by the time we get to 9 and 10 o'clock tonight, now our winds are out of the north and west. That low is moving into the Atlantic. The cold front is through, and cooler, drier air is beginning to sweep in. Now, as those winds blow across the Gulf of Mexico, it is already rough out there. It's going to be rough throughout the day. Wave heights building to 6 to 8 feet. There is a gale warning in effect. I can't recommend being out there on the boats today, that's for sure. Definitely don't want to go swimming. High risk of rip currents out there today, and very rough surf. Along with that, I think we'll be dealing with some minor coastal flooding at high tide with those strong onshore winds. Can expect 1 to 2 foot rises, I think, on normal high tide this afternoon as the tide comes in. So those of you watching that know those spots that tend to flood during these high tide events, definitely going to deal with some issues later on today, I think. There's your 7-day forecast. Like I said, northwest wind takes over. That brings in much cooler air, but also a quiet weather pattern settling back in. We're partly cloudy tomorrow, mainly dry, much cooler. Temperatures struggle to get out of the 60s. Mid-70s by Thursday after a very chilly start. Numbers in the 40s in many spots. And then Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, looking fantastic. Lots of sunshine, highs back in the upper 70s. That's your most accurate forecast from ABC 7.